Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The Tribunal Hall was an architectural marvel that seemed to float within a vacuum of shimmering starlight. Pillars of translucent material spiraled toward the ceiling, pulsating with faint hues of blue and gold. Holographic displays hovered between delegates, showing live feeds of the accused and a list of their alleged crimes. The air was tense with a mix of anticipation and judgment. Ethan Walker stood among a sea of alien dignitaries, his diplomatic badge glowing faintly on his chest. Humanity was still relatively new to the galactic stage, and his presence here was as much a curiosity to the gathered species as it was a reminder of the Tribunal's growing power. For all the grandeur, Ethan couldn't help but feel the oppressive weight of the hall's silence. All eyes turned to the central podium as Talara, the accused, was escorted into the chamber. Her wrists were bound with energy cuffs, and two towering guards flanked her, their insectoid carapaces glinting under the artificial light. Ethan's breath caught as he saw her, a tall figure, her iridescent skin refracting light into a cascade of colors. Despite her restraints, her posture was defiant, and her violet eyes burned with a quiet fury. "Let the trial begin," a voice boomed, amplified by unseen speakers. The presiding adjudicator, a serpentine alien with a crown of bioluminescent tendrils, raised a spindly arm. "Talara of the Niven system, you stand accused of rebellion, sedition, and crimes against the Galactic Tribunal. How do you plead?" Talara's gaze swept the room, her eyes meeting those of her accusers before landing briefly on Ethan. "I plead guilty," she said, her voice steady. "Guilty of standing against tyranny. Guilty of defending my people when no one else would." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Ethan raised an eyebrow. She wasn't just defending herself. She was making a statement, and she intended for it to resonate. The prosecuting alien, a stout creature with translucent skin and pulsating organs, stepped forward. "The accused admits her crimes. Her rebellion resulted in the deaths of thousands and the destabilization of 3 systems under tribunal governance. This cannot go unpunished." Ethan's translator earpiece hummed softly as it relayed the words, but the tone of condemnation needed no translation. His instincts told him there was more to this story than the prosecution let on. "Was it rebellion?" Talara interjected, her voice cutting through the din. "Or was it survival? When your tribunal taxed our planet into destitution, when my people starved while your fleets stripped our resources, who was guilty of a crime? Us for fighting back, or you for leaving us no choice?" Ethan felt a flicker of admiration. She was bold, even in the face of certain doom. "Order!" the adjudicator snapped, slamming a gavel-like instrument onto the podium. The hall quieted, but the tension thickened. "Talara, you have been afforded the right to speak, but this is not a place for rhetoric. Present your defense." "There is no defense for the truth," she replied. Her words hung in the air like a challenge. Ethan leaned toward a nearby alien delegate. "How often does a trial like this end in acquittal?" The alien, a multi-eyed being with a voice like grinding stones, turned its heads toward him. "Acquittal? Never. The tribunal values order above all. Her fate is sealed." Ethan clenched his jaw. He didn't like it, but his role here was to observe, not interfere. Yet, as the trial progressed, he found it harder to remain impartial. The prosecution painted Talara as a dangerous insurgent, while she painted herself as a freedom fighter. The truth, Ethan suspected, was somewhere in between. Hours passed, filled with witness testimonies, holographic evidence, and impassioned arguments. Finally, the adjudicator raised both arms, signaling the verdict. "Talara of Niven, this tribunal finds you guilty as charged. You are sentenced to execution by disintegration at dawn." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Talara stood motionless, her expression unreadable. Ethan felt a surge of anger rise within him. This wasn't justice, it was a spectacle. As the crowd began to disperse, he stayed rooted to the spot, his mind racing. A plan was forming, reckless, dangerous, and likely to get him reprimanded by his superiors. But he couldn't let it go. He had to save her. The corridors outside the tribunal hall were as cold and impersonal as the judgment that had just been delivered. Metallic walls pulsed faintly with blue light, and the echoes of distant voices bounced off the high ceilings. Ethan Walker moved through the throng of alien delegates, his thoughts turbulent. His diplomat badge granted him access to restricted areas, but even with that privilege, every step felt like walking a tightrope. "Walker," called a gravelly voice. He turned to see Jorvik, a reptilian envoy from the Yakarni Confederation. The scales on Jorvik's broad face rippled with curiosity. "You linger here. What interest does humanity have in the Tribunal's justice?" Ethan forced a neutral smile. "Observation, Jorvik. It's part of understanding the galaxy we've joined." "Curious," Jorvik mused. "You seemed unsettled during the trial." Ethan shrugged, masking his frustration. "I suppose humanity prefers a different approach to justice. Execution leaves little room for redemption." Jorvik chuckled, a low rumble like distant thunder. "Redemption is a luxury when order is at stake. This Talara is a firebrand. She would burn the galaxy if given the chance. Better snuff her flame now." Ethan nodded politely, but didn't respond. The conversation underscored what he already suspected. Talara's execution wasn't about justice. It was about silencing a threat. Ethan's quarters aboard the Tribunal station were modest compared to the extravagant accommodations of more senior delegates. The sterile room was functional, with a small desk, a single cot, and a holographic interface on one wall. He sank into the chair, tapping his fingers against the metal desk as he considered his options. His communicator blinked with a message from Earth's diplomatic corps, no doubt reminding him to stay neutral. But neutrality felt impossible now. Talara's defiance during the trial wasn't just inspiring. It was a reminder of the ideals humanity had once fought for in its own turbulent history. He activated the holographic interface, pulling up everything he could find on Talara's case. The details were damning on the surface, but inconsistencies began to emerge as he delved deeper. Reports of her rebellion included accounts of entire villages wiped out by tribunal forces before she had even raised arms. Resources stripped from her planet had left millions starving. She hadn't started a rebellion. She had responded to a massacre. "She's not the criminal here," Ethan muttered to himself. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. It was the signal for private correspondence. He hesitated before opening the channel. The face that appeared in the hologram was one he hadn't expected, an old ally from his days in the Terran fleet. "Ethan," said Admiral Marin Galloway, her sharp features softened slightly by concern. "What are you planning?" He leaned back, sighing. "I don't know, Marin. This whole thing stinks. She's not a villain. They're making her a scapegoat." Galloway's brow furrowed. "You know the rules. Earth can't afford to upset the tribunal. You're there to observe, not interfere." "Sometimes observing isn't enough," Ethan shot back. "If we let this happen, what does that say about us? About humanity?" Galloway's expression darkened. "Don't do anything reckless. I can't protect you if you step out of line." The channel closed, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts. But the conversation had only solidified his resolve. He couldn't stand by and watch Talara be executed for daring to fight for her people. The next morning, Ethan stood before the Tribunal's council chamber, a place even more imposing than the trial hall. The adjudicator loomed above him, its bioluminescent tendrils undulating in irritation. "What is the purpose of this interruption, human representative?" the adjudicator hissed. Ethan stepped forward, his diplomat badge glowing brightly against his chest. "I request to invoke Article 49 of the Intergalactic Accords." A ripple of surprise moved through the gathered council members. Article 49 was an obscure clause that allowed a species to offer an alternative punishment in cases where execution was deemed excessive. It was rarely used and even less frequently honored. The adjudicator narrowed its many eyes. "You dare challenge the tribunal's judgment?" "I don't challenge it," Ethan replied evenly. "I offer an alternative. Humanity believes in the possibility of redemption. Let Talara serve her sentence under human supervision. If she proves dangerous, her fate will still be in your hands." The room erupted into murmurs. Ethan could feel the weight of the council's scrutiny. their skepticism palpable. But he held his ground, meeting the adjudicator's gaze with unwavering determination. Finally, the adjudicator raised a spindly arm. The tribunal will deliberate. You will be summoned when a decision is reached. Hours later, Ethan was summoned back to the council chamber. The adjudicator's voice boomed as the verdict was announced. After careful consideration, the tribunal has decided to grant your request. Talara will be placed under your custody for rehabilitation. However, understand this, human representative. Should she commit any further offenses, the consequences will fall upon you. Ethan exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief and apprehension washing over him. He had won this battle, but the war was far from over. Talara's life was now in his hands, and he knew the tribunal would be watching his every move. As he exited the chamber, he caught a glimpse of Talara being escorted toward him. Her violet eyes locked onto his, a mixture of curiosity and disbelief in her gaze. For the first time since the trial began, she looked uncertain. "Why would you do this?" she asked, her voice low but laced with defiance. Ethan offered her a small, tired smile. Because sometimes, doing the right thing means breaking the rules. The sterile confines of the holding cells buzzed with the low hum of energy barriers. Talara sat on the narrow bench in her cell, her posture relaxed but her eyes watchful. When Ethan arrived, flanked by two stern-faced guards, she barely glanced at him, her gaze fixed instead on the shimmering barrier separating them. "Your belongings have been cleared," one of the guards said as they lowered the energy field. "The prisoner is now your responsibility, human representative. Take care. You'll be accountable for her actions." Ethan nodded, his expression unreadable. "Understood." As Talara stepped out of the cell, her violet eyes locked onto Ethan's. "So, you're my savior now?" she asked, her voice tinged with sarcasm. "A noble human riding in to rescue the poor alien?" Ethan kept his tone even. "I wouldn't call it rescuing. Let's just say I believe you deserve a second chance." "Second chance," she echoed, her lips curling into a faint smirk. "Or maybe you just wanted a front row seat to see what happens next." He didn't take the bait. "Come on. We need to leave before the tribunal changes its mind." Ethan led Talara through a labyrinth of corridors toward the docking bay, his diplomat badge granting them passage through restricted areas. But something felt off. The usual hum of activity had quieted, and the few guards they passed seemed tense. As they approached the docking bay, Ethan's communicator buzzed. A coded message appeared on the small screen. "Assassination imminent. Get her off the station now." Ethan's blood ran cold. Someone within the tribunal was defying its own decision, determined to silence Talara once and for all. He turned to her, his voice urgent. "We need to move now." Talara's expression hardened as she read his urgency. Without a word, she followed him into the bay, her every step poised for action. The docking area was vast, with ships of all shapes and sizes arranged like jewels on a crown. Ethan's shuttle was at the far end, and they quickened their pace. A sudden explosion rocked the bay. The shockwave knocked Ethan to the ground, and alarms blared throughout the station. Talara was already on her feet, scanning for the source of the attack. A squad of armored assassins emerged from the smoke, their energy weapons trained on her. "They're not wasting time," she muttered, her bioluminescent patterns flaring with anger. Ethan scrambled to his feet. "Come on." He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the shuttle. The assassins opened fire, their plasma rounds scorching the air around them. Talara yanked a fallen guard's weapon from the ground and returned fire with precision that surprised Ethan. "You humans always run from a fight," she said, her tone teasing even as she dispatched two attackers with ease. "I'm not running. I'm retreating strategically," Ethan shot back, diving behind a cargo crate and pulling her down with him. "Besides, surviving is part of the plan." Talara smirked but said nothing, covering their advance with well-placed shots. They reached the shuttle as more explosions rocked the bay. Ethan slammed the hatch shut as Talara dropped into the co-pilot's seat. "Can you fly?" he asked, powering up the engines. "Better than you, probably," she quipped, strapping herself in. Just get us out of here." The shuttle roared to life, its engines lighting up the bay. Ethan navigated through the chaos, weaving between debris and incoming fire. Talara adjusted the weapon systems, firing back at the assassin ships pursuing them. The Tribunal station grew smaller in the rear viewport as they accelerated into open space. Ethan breathed a sigh of relief, but Talara's gaze remained sharp. "They won't give up," she said, her tone grim. "The Tribunal doesn't take betrayal lightly." Ethan nodded. "That's why we're going dark. No signals, no traceable routes. I know a place where we can lay low." She raised an eyebrow. "And why should I trust you?" He glanced at her, his expression serious. "Because right now, I'm the only one who doesn't want you dead." Her smirk returned, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Fair enough." Ethan's destination was a small, uncharted planet on the edge of Tribunal space. It was a haven for outlaws, smugglers, and those seeking to disappear. The shuttle landed in a dense forest, its canopy providing natural camouflage. As they stepped out, Talara took a deep breath, her tension easing slightly in the planet's quiet serenity. "This isn't what I expected from a human," she admitted, her tone softer now. "Risking your life for someone you barely know." Ethan shrugged. "Humanity's history is full of people fighting for causes bigger than themselves. Maybe you reminded me of that." She tilted her head, studying him. "Or maybe you're just as reckless as I am." He chuckled. "Could be." Over the next few days, Ethan and Talara worked to repair the shuttle and fortify their temporary camp. They shared stories of their worlds, gradually bridging the cultural gap. Talara spoke of her people's struggles under Tribunal rule, her voice laced with both bitterness and pride. Ethan shared humanity's own turbulent past, from wars to revolutions, drawing parallels between their histories. Despite her initial wariness, Talara began to see Ethan as more than just another Tribunal puppet. His sincerity and willingness to challenge authority set him apart. Meanwhile, Ethan grew to admire Talara's resilience and her unwavering determination to fight for her people. One night, as they sat around a small fire under the alien sky, Talara turned to him. "You could have left me to die. It would have been easier. Why didn't you?" Ethan hesitated before answering. "Because I've seen what happens when good people do nothing. And because I believe you're worth saving." For a moment, the walls Talara had built around herself seemed to waver. She didn't reply, but the faint glow of her bioluminescence softened, a sign of quiet gratitude. The uncharted planet was a mosaic of alien beauty, crystal-clear rivers, forests of glowing trees, and a sky that shimmered with twin moons. For the first time in days, silence replaced the chaos of the Tribunal's pursuit, giving Ethan and Talara a brief reprieve. But the weight of their circumstances lingered like a storm on the horizon. Ethan finished securing the camp perimeter with improvised sensors to warn them of intruders. Talara stood nearby, inspecting her salvaged weapon, a sleek energy rifle she had scavenged during their escape. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed faintly in the dim light, reflecting her pensive mood. "Any chance your people know we're here?" Ethan asked, breaking the silence. She didn't look up. "If they do, they'll stay away. The Tribunal's reach is long, and no one wants to be caught aiding a fugitive." Ethan nodded, dropping into a seat beside the fire. "So, it's just us." Talara gave him a sidelong glance. "You sound disappointed." He chuckled. "Not disappointed, just aware of how dangerous that makes the situation." Later that night, as the fire crackled softly, Ethan found Talara sitting by the edge of a nearby stream, staring into the water. Her usually defiant posture was replaced by something more subdued. He approached quietly, not wanting to startle her. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. She glanced at him and nodded, her expression unreadable. For a while, they sat in silence, the bubbling stream filling the void between them. Finally, she spoke. "You're different from what I expected." "Good different or bad different?" he teased. Talara smirked faintly. "Jury's still out. Humans are strange. Your species is new to the galactic stage. yet you act like you belong here. Ethan shrugged. We're good at adapting. It's a survival thing. Her gaze softened. Survival. That's something I understand. She paused, her voice growing quieter. My people have suffered for generations under the Tribunal. They call us rebels, but all we've ever wanted is to live without fear. Ethan watched her, sensing the pain beneath her words. Fighting back doesn't make you wrong, he said gently. Sometimes it's the only option. She turned to him, her violet eyes catching the moonlight. And what about you, Ethan Walker? Why risk everything for someone like me? Is it guilt, sympathy, or something else? Ethan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Maybe it's because I've seen what happens when people stand by and do nothing. Maybe I saw in you something I've seen in myself. Refusal to give up, no matter the odds. Her bioluminescent markings flared faintly, betraying her surprise. You're either very brave or very foolish. Probably both, he admitted, earning a quiet laugh from her. The next morning, Ethan's makeshift sensors triggered an alert. The two scrambled into action, scanning the horizon for signs of pursuit. A faint distortion in the air, like a heat mirage, moved toward their camp. Talara's eyes narrowed. That's a Tribunal stealth drone, she said, her tone grim. They found us. Ethan cursed under his breath. Can we take it down? Talara raised her rifle, adjusting its settings. I'll handle it. Just keep out of sight. The drone hovered closer, its sleek form nearly invisible against the backdrop of the forest. Talara waited until it was within range before firing a single, precise shot. The drone exploded in a burst of energy, raining fragments into the trees. They'll know where it was destroyed, Ethan said, already packing their supplies. We need to move. Talara nodded, her expression resolute. There's a place deeper in the forest, an old outpost my people used during the rebellion. It might still be intact. Lead the way, Ethan replied. The journey to the outpost was grueling. The dense forest tested their endurance, but they worked together, each compensating for the other's weaknesses. Talara's knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable, while Ethan's tactical thinking helped them evade potential threats. When they finally reached the outpost, it was a dilapidated structure hidden beneath a canopy of glowing vines. Inside, they found rudimentary supplies and a communication array, though its power was unstable. As they set up camp, Ethan noticed Talara watching him. Something on your mind? He asked. She hesitated before speaking. You've proven more resourceful than I expected. For someone who claims to be a diplomat, you think like a soldier. Ethan sighed, his expression growing distant. I wasn't always a diplomat. I served in the Terran fleet before this. After seeing too much death, I thought I could make a bigger difference with words instead of weapons. And yet here you are, she said softly, fighting for someone you barely know. He met her gaze. Sometimes, words aren't enough. Their eyes lingered on each other, an unspoken connection forming between them. For the first time, Talara allowed herself to trust him, if only a little. That night, as they worked to power up the communication array, Ethan picked up faint transmissions on a secured channel. The Tribunal was intensifying its search, deploying more drones and a small fleet to scour the area. They're not giving up, Talara said, her tone laced with both frustration and determination. Neither are we, Ethan replied. We'll figure something out. Despite the looming danger, there was a growing sense of camaraderie between them. Their shared struggle had created a bond that transcended their differences, and though the odds were against them, they faced the challenge together. The glow of the outpost's dim lights barely illuminated the room as Talara and Ethan pored over the flickering holographic display. The communication array hummed softly, struggling to pull in signals through years of neglect. Talara's fingers danced across the console, her expression a mixture of concentration and frustration. This array isn't powerful enough to reach anyone beyond this sector, she muttered, slamming a hand against the console. If we're going to contact my allies, we'll need a stronger signal. Ethan leaned over her shoulder, studying the readouts. There's a relay station about 50 clicks from here, he said, pointing to a blip on the map. It's risky, but if it's operational, we can boost the signal. Talara's gaze flicked to him. And if it's not? Then we'll figure out the next step, he replied calmly. It's what we've been doing so far. Her bioluminescent patterns flickered faintly, betraying a mix of amusement and admiration. You humans really don't know when to quit. Ethan smirked. It's one of our defining traits. The trek to the relay station was fraught with danger. The forest grew denser as they moved deeper into uncharted territory, its towering trees and glowing flora casting eerie shadows. Every sound seemed amplified, every movement a potential threat. Talara took the lead, her steps deliberate and quiet. Ethan followed, keeping his weapon ready. Despite the tension, he couldn't help but notice how seamlessly they worked together, her instincts and his strategy complementing each other in ways neither had anticipated. As they reached the edge of a rocky ridge, Talara held up a hand, signaling for Ethan to stop. She crouched low, scanning the area with narrowed eyes. There, she whispered, pointing to a glimmering structure partially concealed by overgrown vegetation. That's the relay station. Ethan studied the building. Looks intact, but I don't like how quiet it is. Talara nodded. Stay alert. The relay station was a relic of the past, its design a stark contrast to the sleek, modern technology of the Tribunal. The interior was dim, the air heavy with the scent of decay. Dust-covered consoles and broken equipment littered the room, but the central relay tower still pulsed faintly with power. Talara moved to the main console, her fingers deftly clearing away debris and activating the system. The holographic interface sputtered to life, casting flickering blue light across the room. This might actually work, she said, a hint of hope in her voice. Ethan stood guard near the entrance, his eyes scanning the shadows. Let's make it quick. We're exposed out here. Talara accessed the relay's communication protocols, sending out a coded message to her allies. The console displayed a countdown as the signal transmitted, each second feeling like an eternity. Suddenly, a faint noise echoed through the station, a low, mechanical hum. Ethan tensed, gripping his weapon. We've got company. The hum grew louder, followed by the unmistakable clanking of metallic footsteps. Tribunal enforcers, sleek, humanoid robots designed for precision combat, emerged from the shadows, their weapons glowing with lethal energy. Talara, we need to move. Ethan shouted, firing the first shot. Talara grabbed the portable data core she'd extracted from the console and dove for cover. The room erupted into chaos as plasma bolts ricocheted off walls and consoles. Ethan's tactical training kicked in as he coordinated their retreat, using the environment to their advantage. Up the ladder, he called, covering her as she climbed to the upper level. Talara reached the top and provided suppressing fire, while Ethan followed. Together, they navigated through the station's upper corridors, evading the enforcers at every turn. Finally, they burst out onto the station's roof, the open sky offering both freedom and vulnerability. There! Ethan pointed to a zip line connecting the station to a nearby ridge. It's our way out. Talara didn't hesitate, securing the data core to her belt before grabbing the zip line handle. Let's go! They zipped across the line as plasma fire erupted behind them. The enforcers reached the roof, just as Ethan and Talara landed on the ridge. Without looking back, they ran into the forest, using the dense foliage for cover. They didn't stop until they were certain they weren't being followed. The forest was silent again, the only sound their labored breathing. Talara leaned against a tree, clutching the data core tightly. We got the signal out, she said, her voice shaky but determined. Now we wait. Ethan nodded, dropping to the ground and catching his breath. And hope your allies are listening. Talara looked at him, her expression softening. You saved my life back there. Again. Ethan shrugged. It's becoming a habit. A rare smile crossed her lips. Thank you. For a moment, the tension melted away, replaced by a quiet understanding. They were in this together now, two unlikely allies fighting against impossible odds. That night, As they rested back at their temporary camp, the portable data core emitted a soft chime. Talara rushed to it, her heart racing. The holographic display activated, revealing a message from one of her trusted allies. "Talara," the hologram said, the voice distorted but recognizable. "We received your signal. We're regrouping, but the Tribunal's forces are everywhere. Stay hidden until we can rendezvous. Coordinates to follow." Relief washed over her as the message ended. She turned to Ethan, her violet eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. "They're coming. We have a chance." Ethan nodded, his expression serious but hopeful. "Then we'd better be ready." The forest was alive with a quiet hum of anticipation. Talara and Ethan moved through the dense undergrowth toward the coordinates her allies had sent. The tension between them had eased in the days since their escape, replaced by a growing camaraderie born of shared survival. As they approached the rendezvous point, a clearing illuminated by bioluminescent plants, Talara's bioluminescent markings flickered faintly, a sign of her nerves. "They'll be cautious," she warned. "Some of them may think I've been compromised." Ethan nodded. "Then let's prove them wrong." One by one, figures emerged from the shadows, their faces a mix of suspicion and relief. They were a ragtag group, fighters and engineers, survivors from Talara's rebellion. Their leader, a broad-shouldered man with scars crisscrossing his deep green skin, stepped forward. His piercing gaze lingered on Ethan. "Talara," the man said, his voice low and gravelly. "We thought you were dead." "Not yet, Karis," she replied with a wry smile. "And we have a chance to change the odds, thanks to him." She gestured to Ethan. Karis eyed the human warily. "A human? You trust him?" Talara's voice was firm. "He saved my life. Twice. And he risked everything to get me out of the Tribunal's clutches. We wouldn't be here without him." Ethan stepped forward, meeting Karis' skeptical gaze. "I don't expect your trust," he said, "but I believe in what Talara's fighting for, and I'm here to help." Karis studied him for a long moment before giving a curt nod. "We'll see." The rebels gathered around a makeshift table in the center of the clearing, a holographic map displaying the surrounding systems. Talara and Ethan stood side by side as Karis outlined the situation. "The Tribunal's forces are tightening their grip," Karis said, pointing to various sectors on the map. "We've lost contact with several cells. If we're going to strike back, we need more than just numbers. We need a symbol." "Talara is that symbol," Ethan interjected. "Her survival is proof that the Tribunal isn't invincible. If we can broadcast her message to the galaxy, we'll inspire others to rise." The rebels murmured their agreement, though some still looked uncertain. Talara stepped forward, her voice resolute. "We have a chance to change everything, but it will take all of us working together. The Tribunal wants us to be afraid, to believe we're alone. Let's prove them wrong." Her words ignited a spark in the group. Even Karis seemed swayed, his hardened expression softening. Over the next few days, the camp buzzed with activity. The rebels worked tirelessly to repair old ships, craft weapons, and establish secure communication lines. Ethan lent his tactical expertise, earning the respect of the group despite their initial reservations. Talara, meanwhile, took on the role of leader with a natural grace that surprised even her. She moved through the camp, offering encouragement and guidance, her presence a beacon of hope. One night, as the camp quieted, Ethan found her standing alone at the edge of the clearing, gazing up at the twin moons. He approached, his footsteps soft against the forest floor. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. She glanced at him, her expression contemplative. "Too much on my mind." "Worried about the plan," he pressed. "Worried about what happens after," she admitted. "Even if we succeed, the Tribunal won't stop. They'll come for me, and anyone who stands with me." Ethan stepped closer, his voice steady. "Then we'll keep fighting. Together." Her violet eyes searched his, and for a moment, the weight of their struggle seemed to lift. "You're a strange one, Ethan Walker." He smiled. "I'll take that as a compliment." The next day, The rebels conducted a raid on a Tribunal supply outpost to gather much-needed resources. Ethan and Talara led the operation, their teamwork seamless as they coordinated the attack. The mission wasn't without its challenges. Tribunal forces responded quickly, and a fierce firefight erupted. Ethan's tactical planning and Talara's combat skills proved invaluable, but it was the rebels' newfound unity that carried the day. As they regrouped with their spoils, the rebels' morale soared. For the first time in months, they believed they could win. Back at the camp, the rebels prepared to broadcast Talara's message using the stolen equipment. The moment felt monumental as Talara stepped before the makeshift transmitter, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "To the oppressed and the forgotten," she began, her gaze unwavering. "Know that you are not alone. The Tribunal wants you to believe that resistance is futile, that hope is dead. But I am here to tell you they are wrong." Her message was powerful, a rallying cry that resonated across systems. For Ethan, it was a reminder of why he had risked everything to stand by her side. As the broadcast ended, the camp's alarms blared. Scouts reported an incoming Tribunal fleet, no doubt tracking the transmission. The rebels scrambled to prepare for an imminent attack. Ethan turned to Talara, his expression grim. "We've got their attention." "Good," she replied, her bioluminescent patterns flaring with determination. "Let's show them what happens when they underestimate us." The camp was a hive of activity as the rebels prepared for the incoming Tribunal fleet. Fighters armed themselves with salvage weapons, engineers fortified defenses, and the air buzzed with equal parts fear and determination. Talara stood at the center, her commanding presence inspiring those around her. Ethan joined her, his expression focused but calm. "Scouts say the Tribunal will be here within the hour. They're bringing heavy firepower." "Good," Talara said, her bioluminescent markings pulsing faintly. "They think they can crush us with brute force. Let's show them the strength of a united front." Ethan couldn't help but admire her resolve. "You've got this," he said. "I'll handle the ground defenses. You focus on rallying your people." She met his gaze, a flicker of gratitude in her violet eyes. "Be careful, Ethan." "Always," he replied with a smirk before heading toward the defensive lines. The sky darkened as the Tribunal fleet descended, their massive ships blotting out the twin moons. The rebels held their positions, waiting for the signal to engage. Ethan manned a command post, coordinating the defense with Kari's and the other leaders. "They're deploying ground forces," Kari's reported, his voice tense. "Heavy infantry and assault drones." Ethan nodded. "We'll draw them into the choke points. Keep their air support off balance." Talara's voice crackled over the comms. "They're targeting our main comm tower. If they take it out, we lose our ability to coordinate." Ethan activated the relay. "Understood. I'll send a team to reinforce it." The first wave of Tribunal forces hit the rebel defenses like a tidal wave. Plasma bolts lit up the forest, and explosions shook the ground. The rebels fought valiantly, their determination outweighing their lack of resources. Ethan found himself in the thick of the battle, his weapon a blur of motion as he took down advancing drones. The rebels around him followed his lead, their confidence bolstered by his calm demeanor and precise commands. "Fall back to the second line," he shouted, gesturing for his team to regroup. "Hold your fire until they're in range." The Tribunal forces pressed forward, but the rebels held firm. Using the terrain to their advantage, they funneled the enemy into kill zones where makeshift traps and concentrated fire took their toll. Talara, meanwhile, led a strike team to flank the enemy's artillery. Her movements were swift and precise, her energy rifle taking down targets with deadly efficiency. The sight of their leader on the front lines invigorated the rebels, pushing them to fight harder. As the battle raged on, a critical opportunity presented itself. One of the Tribunal's ships, damaged by the rebels' anti-air defenses, was forced to land nearby. Ethan saw the chance and rallied a team to capture it. "We take that ship, we can use its systems to disrupt their communications," he explained. "It'll buy us time to regroup." Talara joined him, her determination unshaken. "I'm coming with you." They led the assault together, storming the grounded vessel with a combination of precision and ferocity. The interior was a maze of corridors, but the rebels moved with purpose, taking out the ship's crew and securing the command center. Ethan worked quickly, hacking into the ship's systems to upload a virus that would interfere with the Tribunal fleet's coordination. "This should slow them down," he said, his fingers flying across the console. Talara covered him, her rifle at the ready. "Hurry, we won't have much time before they send reinforcements." The virus uploaded successfully, and the ship's systems flickered as the disruption spread. The rebels retreated just as a second wave of Tribunal forces arrived, explosions chasing them into the forest. Back at the camp, the tide of the battle was shifting. The Tribunal's forces, disoriented by the communication disruption, faltered in their assault. The rebels seized the opportunity, launching a counterattack that pushed the enemy back. Talara stood atop a makeshift platform, her voice carrying over the sounds of the battle. "This is our moment. Fight for your freedom, for your families, for everything the Tribunal tried to take from us." Her words ignited a fire in the rebels, and their renewed vigor overwhelmed the remaining enemy forces. One by one, the Tribunal ships retreated, their once imposing fleet reduced to scattered remnants. As the battle ended, the rebels erupted in cheers. The camp was battered but still standing, a testament to their resilience. Ethan found Talara amidst the crowd, her expression a mix of relief and exhaustion. "You did it," he said, his tone light but sincere. "You gave them hope." "We did it," she corrected, a faint smile touching her lips. "I couldn't have done this without you." Their moment was interrupted by a transmission from one of the retreating Tribunal ships. The message was brief but chilling. "This isn't over. The Tribunal never forgets." Ethan and Talara exchanged a glance, the weight of the warning settling over them. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. That night, as the rebels tended to their wounded and celebrated their hard-fought victory, Ethan and Talara sat together near the edge of the clearing. The stars above seemed brighter, a promise of a better future. "What now?" Ethan asked, his voice quiet. Talara's bioluminescent markings pulsed softly. "We keep fighting, but this time, we're not alone." He nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Whatever comes next, I'm with you." For the first time in a long while, Talara allowed herself to hope. The rebellion had a chance, and with Ethan by her side, she knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The camp was quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos of the battle hours earlier. The rebels worked tirelessly to tend to the wounded, repair what they could, and honor the fallen. Though they had won the day, the cost of victory was etched into every face. Ethan sat near a makeshift med bay, wrapping a bandage around his forearm where a stray plasma bolt had grazed him. Talara approached, her expression a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Her bioluminescent markings, usually vibrant, were dim, a sign of her weariness. "How's the arm?" she asked, sitting beside him. "Could have been worse," he replied with a small smile. "Nothing a little human stubbornness won't fix." Talara chuckled softly, her first genuine laugh in days. "You've got plenty of that." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching as the camp slowly came back to life. Despite their victory, the looming threat of the Tribunal hung heavy in the air. The following day, Talara addressed the rebels, her voice steady but somber. They had lost comrades in the fight, and she ensured every name was spoken, every sacrifice honored. Her words carried the weight of a leader who understood the cost of freedom, and the rebels rallied around her with renewed determination. Ethan took on the role of strategist, working closely with Karis and the other leaders to fortify the camp and prepare for the inevitable retaliation. The stolen Tribunal ship, though damaged, provided a wealth of resources, data, weapons, and a way to track their enemies' movements. As they worked, Talara found herself drawn to Ethan more and more. His unwavering resolve and quiet strength had become a cornerstone of the rebellion, and though she wouldn't admit it, she found comfort in his presence. One evening, as the camp settled into an uneasy calm, Talara sought Ethan out. She found him sitting by the edge of the clearing, staring up at the stars. For a moment, she hesitated, then joined him. "You always find the quiet places," she said, sitting beside him. "Helps me think," he replied, glancing at her. "And there's a lot to think about." She nodded, her gaze drifting to the sky. "We won today, but the Tribunal won't stop. They'll come back stronger than before." Ethan leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "Then we'll be ready. You've proven that your people can stand up to them. Now it's about making sure others join the fight." Talara looked at him, her violet eyes searching his face. "Why do you believe in this so much?" "In me." He met her gaze, his voice steady. "Because I've seen what happens when people lose hope. You give them something to believe in, Talara. That's worth fighting for." Her bioluminescent markings pulsed faintly, a sign of her gratitude. "You make it sound so simple." "It's not," he admitted, "but it's worth it." Their eyes lingered on each other, the connection between them growing deeper. For the first time in a long while, Talara allowed herself to trust someone completely. With the stolen ship operational, the rebels began preparing for the next phase of their fight. The data retrieved from the ship revealed critical information about the Tribunal's operations, supply routes, weak points, and the locations of other oppressed systems. Talara and Ethan worked side by side to devise a plan. They would use the stolen ship to infiltrate Tribunal-controlled space, rally more allies, and disrupt their operations from within. "It's ambitious," Kari said, studying the holographic map. "But if we can pull it off, it could turn the tide." Talara nodded. "It's a risk, but it's our best chance." Ethan added, "We're not just fighting for your people anymore. This is about everyone the Tribunal has oppressed. If we can unite them, we can win." The room buzzed with a mix of apprehension and excitement. The rebels knew the road ahead would be dangerous, but for the first time, they felt a glimmer of hope. As the rebels prepared for their mission, Ethan and Talara found themselves spending more time together. Their bond, forged in the crucible of battle, had deepened into something neither of them fully understood but both valued. One night, as they worked late in the command tent, Talara paused, watching Ethan as he studied a map. "You're different from anyone I've ever known," she said quietly. He looked up surprised. "Good different or bad different?" She smiled, a rare and genuine expression. "Good. Definitely good." He chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "I'll take that as a win." Their laughter broke the tension, and for a moment, the weight of their struggle felt lighter. In that moment, they weren't just a rebel leader and a human diplomat. They were two people finding solace in each other amidst the chaos. As the rebels boarded the stolen ship, the weight of their mission settled over them. This was the beginning of a larger fight, one that would take them far from the relative safety of their camp and into the heart of Tribunal-controlled space. Ethan stood beside Talara on the bridge as the ship's engines roared to life. "Ready for this?" he asked. She glanced at him, her expression resolute. "With you by my side. Always." He nodded, his gaze fixed on the stars ahead. "Then let's show them what we're capable of." The ship launched into the void, its course set for the unknown. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united by a shared purpose and a growing bond that neither could ignore. The stolen ship slipped into Tribunal-controlled space, its identification codes masking the rebels' presence. Talara and Ethan coordinated a bold strike, using the data from the captured vessel to disrupt a critical supply route. The operation was swift and effective, rallying oppressed factions as word of Talara's survival and defiance spread. Despite their successes, the Tribunal's forces were relentless, pushing the rebels to their limits. Ethan's leadership and Talara's charisma kept morale high, even as the stakes rose. The Tribunal eventually cornered the rebels on a resource-rich moon. Outnumbered and outgunned, Talara and Ethan devised a desperate plan, a coordinated strike to disable the enemy's flagship and force their withdrawal. The battle was intense, with the rebels suffering heavy losses. Ethan led the ground assault, buying time for Talara and her team to infiltrate the flagship. Together, they sabotaged its core systems, crippling the fleet's command structure. With the Tribunal's forces retreating, the rebellion gained momentum. Systems once loyal to the Tribunal began defecting, inspired by Talara's courage and the rebels' determination. Ethan chose to remain at Talara's side, their bond now unshakable. Together, they prepared for the challenges ahead, their alliance a symbol of unity and resilience.